My only son, Reese, looked at me and delivered the cruel declaration that I was simply too ugly to be seen at his wedding. His fiancée, Talia, elaborated further, suggesting that if I dared to show my face, they would ensure I was placed in a proper nursing home before the vows were even exchanged. What they both remained profoundly unaware of was the dual reality I faced. I was, indeed, terminally ill, but I was also meticulously hiding a personal fortune worth millions. On the very day they attempted to wipe me clean from their carefully curated lives, I let them smile confidently for the camera one last time, just before I quietly reclaimed everything I had ever possessed. I wore my favorite lavender blouse that day, the one with the little pearl buttons Reese used to gently play with when he was a baby. I even pinned on my matching pearl earrings, the same set he had gifted me for Mother's Day when he was 12. I looked at myself in the mirror before his arrival, trying to perceive the flaws he would undoubtedly see. All I could discern was a tired old woman in a scarf trying desperately not to look like a ghost of herself. Yet I still smiled, holding on to the thought that I was still his mother, and that designation I thought still meant something. Reese strode into my home without extending the common courtesy of knocking, radiating confidence and expensive cologne. He didn't even glance at the cookies I had placed out or the specialty tea I had brewed. He simply sat down on the edge of my couch like he had somewhere vastly better to be. I was already standing when he delivered the sentence. "I think it's better if you don't come to the wedding," he said, framing it like a favor. I asked him what he truly meant, though a sinking feeling confirmed I already knew. It's a very curated event," he explained, adjusting his collar. "Very modern. A clean aesthetic. Minimalist." Talia and I agreed. We want the guest list to reflect that. I offered a confused, hollow laugh. "You don't want your mother in your wedding photos." He shifted uncomfortably. "It's about presentation," he insisted. "You've been sick. The scarf, the coughing, it might be uncomfortable for some of the guests." My heart fractured slightly. "So, I would be considered a distraction?" Reese insisted, using a formal tone I despised. "You know we love you. It's just Kendra, Talia, wants a certain look, a certain experience." Before he could finish, Talia walked in without knocking, tall, thin, with a face like a magazine advertisement. She didn't look at me, only surveying my living room as if she smelled something unpleasant. "So this is the place," she drawled. "Cozy. Very vintage." "She's sick," Talia continued, addressing Reese. "I mean you're sick. It's admirable that you're trying, but the whole scarf and pale skin thing, it's genuinely going to make people uncomfortable." Reese offered a shallow concession. "We can send you the photos. We'll even FaceTime, link call you in for the ceremony. It'll be like you're there." "I don't want a FaceTime link," I said quietly. "I want to be in a room." Talia smiled, but it was not kind. "Maybe we can talk after the honeymoon about long-term care. Somewhere that's clean, peaceful. A good place for recovery." She means a nursing home, I realized instantly. "Don't make this harder than it has to be," Reese pleaded. "I'm trying to be respectful." I looked at him, searching for the boy I had raised. "I gave you everything," I whispered. "Everything I had." He sighed, standing up. "I appreciate that, but you can't keep guilt-tripping me forever." That was when he delivered the final, devastating blow. "This is why Dad left you." I felt something inside me go completely still. He had said it like a weapon, hitting exactly where he intended. I offered no response. I simply sat down slowly, my hands trembling on my knees. Talia turned toward the door. "We'll be in touch. Let us know how your treatments go." Reese leaned down and kissed the top of my scarf, which felt like someone patting a tombstone. "We love you, Mom. We really do," he said. Then they left. I walked to the window and watched their car disappear. I whispered to the empty room, "Thank you for showing me who you really are." I tightened the scarf at my neck. It was no longer covering shame, but holding me together. I had something vital to finish now, and Reese was about to learn what happens when a mother who gave everything has nothing left to lose. There was no anger left, only clarity. That night, I sat in silence. I didn't scream, curse, or beg for answers. My breathing was shallow and raspy from the chemotherapy, but I didn't care. I thought of Reese and the crushing weight of his final insult. This is why Dad left you. I knew Michael David left because he was a coward, not because of anything I did. He didn't want to be a father or work 2 jobs, nor did he want to love a woman who carried stretch marks and exhaustion like battle scars. I had always protected Reese from this truth, allowing him to believe that perhaps his father had loved him once. Now, Reese was handsome, successful, cold, and cruel, just like his father. I rose and shuffled toward my closet, where I knelt with difficulty before the old filing cabinet. Tucked beneath years of tax returns was a folder labeled in black ink, Final. Inside were the deeds to 3 rental homes, life insurance policies, and bank statements with balances that would surprise even Reese. I had never lived lavishly. I still used coupons at the grocery store and wore church shoes from 1997. But I had built a quiet fortune penny by penny over the years. I remembered buying the first rundown duplex and fixing it up bit by bit, creating extra money every month. I later bought a second, then a third, and even a stake in the local beauty salon with my friend, Sheila Carla. No one knew. The original plan was to surprise him after I passed, leaving him everything, along with a letter saying, "You always thought I had nothing, but I saved this for you. I wanted you to know that I believed in your future." That day would never come. I retrieved my beautiful gold letter opener, a gift from Reese. I used that gift to tear the existing will in half, then in quarters, then in eighths. I felt immediately lighter, as if the air had returned to the room. The next morning, I called Monique Chambers Estelle Vance, my oldest friend and lawyer. We had known each other since we were 19, singing in the choir together. Monique answered, "Is this about Tobias Reese?" He asked me not to come, said I'd ruin the aesthetic. I confirmed. And Kendra Talia told me I was a liability, that I should be sent to a home. Tobias just stood there. "Bring the new documents," I instructed her. "I already know who I want to leave it to." "I'm dying, Monique, but not today. Today, I'm just taking back what's mine." I sat down and wrote a new letter, not to Reese, but to the new beneficiary. The Rose House Foundation, the Golden Thread Sanctuary, a women's shelter in South Carolina, Fairhaven, that cares for elderly women abandoned by their families. I had volunteered there and realized those women are me now, women no one visits, women no one remembers, women people want to put away so they won't ruin the view. I drafted my final instructions. My home would go to the foundation. The rental homes would be sold and proceeds donated, and the bank accounts transferred. There would be no funeral or obituary. Just a final letter to Reese. I raised you better than this. I loved you more than life, and you threw me away, so now you get nothing. I won't bury my money beside someone who buried me while I was still alive. Goodbye. Monique arrived just after noon. We sat down, and I explained my intent. I told her I watched too many good women die broke because they gave their lives to ungrateful people. I told myself I'd never go out like that. "You won't," Monique said firmly. "You're going out loud." I told her I had originally planned to leave him everything, including the shoebox of letters I had written for every birthday until he turned 50. "What are you going to do with them now?" Monique asked. "I'll burn them," I said. "He doesn't get those anymore. He doesn't get me." We worked for an hour, listing every asset, including the $10,000 in emergency cash I kept in my sewing drawer, labeled, "In case the world ends." I dictated the sole beneficiary, the Rose House Foundation. "They've never asked me to hide who I am," I explained. "They don't care what I look like. They don't treat old women like we're furniture they forgot to move." Monique gently asked if I wanted to leave anything to Reese. "I left him my whole life," I replied. "That's enough." My hand shook from the effort of signing, but the will was final. I had one last instruction for Monique. Let him have his wedding. Let him smile in his tux and show off his new bride. Let him think he won. Then you give him the envelope right in front of everyone? "Lorraine, Genevieve, you really want to make a scene?" "I'm not making a scene," I corrected her. "I'm ending one." He started it the day he told me I was too ugly to be seen. Monique nodded solemnly. She placed her hand on mine when I asked if I was being cruel. No, she replied. I think you're being honest, and I think he's lucky you didn't do worse. As she stood to leave, I handed her the manila envelope. Promise me one thing. Don't let him cry and change your mind. You hand it to him exactly when I said. I walked her out, then returned to my room, retrieving the shoebox of letters. I carried them to the kitchen and fed each one into the trash can, tearing them in half. By the time I finished, my hands smelled like ash, but my heart felt clean. The invitation arrived 4 days before the ceremony, sent by Cousin Renee, June. The small note beneath the address read, "Please sit in the designated family section and respect the couple's wishes." Quietly, of course. The message was clear. I was allowed to attend as long as I stayed invisible. I folded the card and decided I would go, not for them, but for myself. On the morning of the wedding, I rose before dawn, dressed in a soft gray suit, and meticulously wrapped my head in a deep blue scarf lined with silver stitching. I pinned on my mother's small silver dove brooch. My eyes, though my body was fragile, were firm and alive. Monique arrived with the sealed envelopes. I gave her the second one for Kendra, Talia. I want to see it just once, I said. I want to see how far he thinks he's come. We drove to the vineyard on the outskirts of Charleston, Fairhaven. The venue was stunning, but I reminded Monique, not with my money. I sat in the third row, quiet, just as requested. I watched as Reese and Talia exchanged rings, kissed, and turned to the audience as husband and wife. The applause erupted, and people rose. I remained seated. As the guests moved toward the reception tent, I gave Monique a single nod. She walked directly toward the couple as they posed in front of the floral arch. Reese's smile faltered when he recognized my lawyer. "Congratulations," Monique said evenly. "This is for you, from your mother." She handed the envelope to Reese, then turned and handed the second envelope to Talia. I stood slowly, gripping my cane. From across the vineyard, Reese opened the envelope. His expression quickly shifted from confusion to disbelief, then to panic. He flipped through the new will, the personal letter, and the proof of donation. He looked up, and our eyes met across the field. I didn't wave. I didn't smile. I turned and walked back toward the car. Reese stood frozen, the manila envelope trembling violently in his hands. The wedding party continued around him, but he was motionless. Talia snatched the second envelope. Inside was my handwritten note. "Kendra, Talia, I won't make this about insults, but I will tell you this. If you're marrying Tobias Reese for what you think you're getting, I suggest you find a new dress and a new life. He has nothing now. He earned it." "What the hell does that mean?" Talia demanded. Reese didn't answer. He frantically flipped through the legal documents. The will was airtight and clear. Every asset, my properties, accounts, and salon shares, had been left to the Rose House Foundation. Nothing was left for him. He read the final letter again, the one stating that I realized I didn't fail as a mother. He failed as a son. The smile he had worn like a polished mask cracked in two. Talia, panic rising, confronted him. "Is this real?" "She left me nothing." Reese, his face ashen, confirmed. "She left me nothing." "She gave away everything?" "You told me she was dying. So, what were you waiting for? The hug? You let her take everything because you couldn't fake respect for 3 hours." Talia's eyes darted across the venue. People were watching. Phones were being raised. She took a step back from him. "I'm not marrying a broke man who can't even control his own mother." Reese tried desperately to grab her hand, but she yanked it away. "You humiliated me. You let her come to the wedding." Talia stormed off, bouquet forgotten. Reese stood alone in front of the floral arch. I was already home, sitting by my window, sipping tea. I looked out at the street light turning on and whispered to myself, this is for every mother who was told she wasn't enough. The tears that slipped down my cheek were not from sadness. They were from peace. The ironic thing about successfully battling cancer is that nobody expects you to win quietly. When the oncologist confirmed the treatment had worked and the scans were clear, I didn't cry or even smile. I folded the news inside me and said, "Good." I had made peace with dying, but now I had something better. Peace while living. I never told Reese. He didn't deserve to know. I let him believe I passed, let the obituary run, and let the resulting silence do the work. I left Charleston, Fairhaven, 2 days after the wedding. I traveled quietly to a coastal village in southern Spain, the Azores, where the air smells like oranges and sea salt. My neighbors call me Ellie. I rent a small home and sit in the afternoons with tea. I still have some money, though most was given away, but enough to buy my time and keep the lights on. Enough to start fresh in a place where no one sees me as a burden. The Rose House Foundation, the Golden Thread Sanctuary, renamed their main building Massey Holloway Hall. Donations poured in after my story went viral, with hashtags like #Granny with the last word and #Lorraine deserved better. They thought I was gone, and I let them. Because for Reese, losing me was the best thing that ever happened to him. It was the only thing that ever taught him anything. He tried to sue, but the will was ironclad, airtight, not a crack of daylight anywhere. Monique gave him my final letter. "I loved you, and you spit on it. I would have given you the world, but you said I was too ugly to be in it. So now I live in one where you don't exist. Goodbye, Mom." He never got to say sorry. He never got closure, and I'm not sorry for that. I gave him a stage to be cruel on, and when he showed his heart, the world saw it for what it was: rotten, ungrateful, empty. I didn't die angry. I lived with purpose. I walked to the market, and the lady at the flower stall knows I like white lilies. Sometimes I think about that scarf I left behind, blue with silver threading, folded neatly on the third-row chair. I hope someone wondered why it was placed so gently. Let them wonder. Let them write poems about the woman who vanished. Because the truth is, I'm not resting in peace. I'm living in it. And Reese? He gets to live in silence. That's the only inheritance I left.